All right, welcome back. Moving on to more conversations on the show this morning. We're looking at the shoot on site anti-terror crackdown that was given by Christopher Musa, saying that his boys should shoot on site when they see a terrorist or anyone who is complicit in that regard. Our guest is Roy Okidievi, who is a security expert. Good morning and welcome to News Hub.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so just to get the context behind this directive and looking at what it is intended or what problem is intended to address, do you think it will solve? Because yes, there's a heightened level of kidnapping and killings across board. This year accounts for the highest number of killings and kidnappings. And now Christopher Musa has told his boys that once you see them, shoot on sight.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. And there are certain things that we need to clear. This concept of General Mustafa boys and Nigerians are looking at it like maybe a kind of attitudinal situation. So, but to me, I would like to clarify some professional angles. Number one, we are talking about human rights, right? Okay, so you say the right to fair hearing, the right to defend yourself. But let us clarify this. Once you are within the territorial integrity of Nigeria, you are bounded by the laws of the territorial integrity of Nigeria. So if you take up arms illegally and you restrict Nigerians from having their free expression in economy, in business, in social activity, in academic activity, and you restrict Nigerians and you inflict harm upon them, then you have immediately withheld your own human rights. And it is the duty of the military to come against anybody that restricts the human rights of Nigerians and wield arms within the territorial integrity of the country.
Okay, for me, I know there's a code of conduct when it comes to engagement of troops, when it comes to engagement for the troops. So how does this differ from the existing rules? Yes, like you highlighted that there's a sort of human rights of a person, but in this situation where the other person is not going to wait, they will kill you instantly. How does it differ from there? You say that that existing rule of engagement will no longer stand. So it's a shoot on sight order, as it were.
Okay, now I am a member of the Human Rights Institute in Washington, D.C. I am a certified human rights member of the Institute. Now, if we are talking about human rights in active combat as a military veteran, by my expression of knowledge, we are talking about combat between military of different countries. Now we are talking about Nigeria is engaging in combat in another country. And between countries, there are human rights rules of engagement that the militaries we have to deploy themselves upon. But we are now talking about guerrilla warfare. We are talking about ragtag, non-institutionalized armed banditry. We are talking about terrorist groups which violate all international rules and national rules. So we are talking about people that cause and inflict massive trauma and loss of lives in any community they find themselves. So they are not also bounded by any rules of engagement. So in the first instance, they are illegally in your space, violating all of your constitutional rights and international expectations. So immediately they become criminals that are prone to inflict and restrict you. So the only means by the military is to take them.
Okay, so my concern, Mr. Roy, is the line of command. The chief of defense, the minister of defense is now the one reading out command to the troops. Is that normal? Is that normal in circumstance? Is the order, is it supposed to come from the Minister of Defense to the troop? And if I am a commander at the battlefield, do I need the instruction of the Minister of Defense to know exactly what I should do when I face a threat?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I agree with you, and you saw me smiling, so I really like that line of thought. Now, let's look at the current Nigeria scenario, and I want to add the word embroglio to it. Now, if you look at the current Nigeria scenario and embroglio, you will understand that everything now, unfortunately, have been interwoven into politics, politicking, and political interest. So when you now have this kind of disparage of unfortunate interwovenness of institutions, institutionalized responsibilities, you will now see that institutional heads that want to actually take action will begin to harmonize all of their departments under them to be able to build a cohesion and act quickly and immediately. Now, let's break that down. Now, the Minister of Defense is supposed to be like a administrative arm and supposed to be like a liaison with higher level of government security agencies for defense production, procurement, and equipment and welfare. So if we are looking at Ministry of Defense, supposed to be interacting with the Senate, the House of Reps, it has come to the stage where the CDS office, the Chief of Defense Staff, following by the naval head, the military head, the soldiers, and the Air Force. Now, those heads of the agencies and the Chief of Defense Staff, they have already been hand-winged, by the political wings and the politicking. So they are at a point where they cannot actually go against government instruction, which are interwoven into political interest. So it is the duty of the Minister of Defense, who is an outgoing Chief of Defense Staff, head of hierarchy of military, and also a current Minister of Defense recently exiting the military, to quickly take it head on and interwove into the politicking of the government and enhance political activities.
Be as that may be, we can't talk about the fights against terror without talking about the welfare of the troops. Yesterday, they announced to us that the minimum wages for soldiers now is about 100,000 naira. And early this year, we saw a video of the troops of the United States government where they were having lunch. And again, we married with our own troop where they're also having their lunch or breakfast. So the 100,000 naira, this bogus salary, do you think is enough to motivate our soldiers to confront the challenges that are facing Nigeria right now?
Thank you so much, sir. And I want to really tell you that your question has brought a lot of blessings from the veteran community. Because when we are talking about soldier salary, I used to tell most of the government offices, agencies, and leaders that I've gotten the opportunity to interact with, that you should be looking at exit plan. So if you are even talking about soldier salary, you should be covertly thinking, what is this soldier's exit plan? As I speak to you, there is no clear-cut, defined salary structure. All that we have been hearing on social media, everything does not reflect, does not interact with what the reality is on ground. Military people are restricted from coming out to the public to say, hey, this is this. Those that have done it have faced the backlash of the military discipline. And right now, as I speak to you, there is no clear-cut, defined, authentic document to say this is the actual salary or whatever for military people that have been approved approved, and listen to my last word, approved and executed. Executed means the alert is in my account. Why am I saying this? People will say you are retired, so you don't know. We know why. Because it will reflect on the pension that military veterans are collecting. So whatever we are getting right now as veterans is same old salaries and pension structure. And if it's there any increase, it has not reflected. So if there is a public announcement by the president, there is a public announcement by whatever agency, the Minister of Defense, it has not reflected in the account of the people they are talking about. So if it has not reflected, then you should be thinking about the government owing arrears, and if the government are owing arrears, the next thing you will hear is that the veterans are going on protest, because it is our duty to protect the welfare of troops who are our children, our subordinates that we left behind, and those that we trained. So definitely within the weeks ahead, you will hear that veterans are going on protest because of the irregularities of information flying around social media and no credit alert to execute those stories on social media.
All right, so I just want to draw your attention back to what happened in Akure some years back. Some soldiers on duty protested that the allowance released by the federal government never got to them, but their commander misappropriated it. Then they were sentenced to death. It took the intervention of Mr. Femi Falana to reduce that sentence to jail time, and they were eventually released. So when we're talking about the fact that federal government are now actually releasing money, so are we not supposed to be beaming our searchlights on the commanders misappropriating these allowances for the troops in the bush?
Thank you very much for that question. You see, we usually have our own internal communication system, especially within the strong network that we have built in the veteran community under the coalition of concerned military veterans. Because the Legion has already become a total failure in Nigeria. So we are pushing for the Veteran Federation of Nigeria. Now, once the Veterans Federation of Nigeria kicks off, there will definitely be a legal department, a legal organization involved. And now that is what Femi Falana was doing, which the Veteran Federation will have to encompass. Now, let me go to your question. Your question now is this. If definitely there is internal misappropriation, then, Oga, we will hear from the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance must constitute a platform where there will be interagency coordination of information to say XYZ amount have been deployed for this salary increase. Because I want to give you this assurance that during our in the past, we held the Ministry of Finance to ransom, and we locked up that place for 2 days. Even the Ministry of Defense, we locked up the gates for 2 days. It's on social media, you can get it. Now, when we got to Ministry of Defense and Finance, we were invited in. When we sat down with them, they showed us documentation to show what has been released and what they could not get cash backing for. So most of these things have not gotten cash backing, but the ones that have gotten cash backing and have been released to the appropriate military office, then the Ministry of Finance will indicate if there is a platform called interagency communication. Even the media, you guys can go to the Ministry of Finance and say, have there been cash backing for these pronouncements? And has the money been released to the military? If the money has been released to the military, then you guys can also help us to follow up, so social media does not bring a lot of cloudiness in the information dissemination process.
I wanted to also go back to the conversation. What safeguards do you think need to be put in place to avoid collateral damage? Because with this new form of idea of engagement, the troops being able to distinguish terrorists from civilians during operations, because there's usually the fear of human casualties. So for me, what do you think the safeguards should be in this type of situation? I don't know if you can hear me.
Hello.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. So I'm saying, what safeguards do you think need to exist to prevent human casualties? Are troops being able to ensure that they distinguish terrorists from civilians during operations like this?
Okay. Let me give you one assurance. In my time, there is this clear-cut understanding that we are going there to execute criminals. Now, if we need to execute criminals and they use human shield, this is what the West is also facing. International organizations, the West that is fighting against terrorism, where you will see that terrorists will use children's school and build bunkers underneath. They will go to hospitals and build bunkers underneath where they do weaponry, explosives. And when you attack those places, yeah, you will hear that you are attacking a school. So we know about these things. There is a clear-cut understanding. But where the problem has been in Nigeria, let's come back to Nigeria, is that people have lost faith and confidence in the military because everybody pays dues to the bandits. They pay taxes to the bandits. They also pay taxes to the government, and they are harassed, raped, and abused in the territorial integrity of the country where the military is. So people have lost confidence. But once this clear-cut communication goes out to people, I assure you that people will move away from those areas once they know that the military is coming and there is a possibility of military attack on those bandits. So I assure you that there will be appropriate communication. And if we are going to have collateral damage, I tell you professionally, it will be minimal to little percentage as at one. So be rest assured that this is the right direction to go. And communication like this too is going out to people to say, start moving out of those places, stop paying taxes to them when the military is coming in. And don't forget also, the government is also backing it with state policing. The government is also talking with local vigilantes that are ready to par with military agencies. The police IG, the current police IG, who I know personally, is enhancing the technology system and interfacing system of the policing, and the harmony between agencies is growing because the current IG and the current Minister of Defense, they have a kind of relationship with other DSS and the EFCC and the NDLEA, which will give the right direction.
Using people, using children as shade, and talking about collateral damages. Yesterday, we had information that those who kidnapped the Orire, the student in Oyo State, about 50 days in detention, in captivity now, that they were threatening the troops that any attempt for the troops to come nearer, they will kill the children. In the circumstance, what method do you think the troop can employ to ensure the rescue of these children and their teachers?
Okay, there are things we cannot talk on air, and I'll be in Nigeria soon, and I've already forwarded some requests to meet with the Minister of Defense and the head of the DSS. There are penetration possibilities. There are implosion possibilities. I am sure you have had times when the bandits fought among themselves, killing some commanders and some of their men. Also, there are times that you have had where abducted people were able to escape. So there are means to penetrate the bandits, the criminal element. There are means. There are appropriate means to also disseminate the fears on the minds of people and get in there and get those people out. So we will be talking with the right departments very soon, and we'll be having audience to communicate the appropriate technology, boots on ground, and physical interface to bring them out. So, but right now, these are not things that you can talk on air, and they are very swift and very, very implementational, successful plans and strategy.
To add some of those strategies, I understand there's a code of conduct maybe put in place for the benefit of Nigerians who are asking questions, who want to understand better the strategies, because a lot of Nigerians have been asking every day what's going on. So for me, do you think this is would I say this new directive is a welcome development? Because we'll be looking at the kinetic and non-kinetic means of approach to hitting kidnapping, killings, and is this just another, would I say, a placebo, temporary solution, or maybe just another way to say, okay, we are furthering the conversation of insurgency? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that the issue of kinetic and non-kinetic, what is a holistic measure to bring kidnapping to an end, killings to an end, to totally deal with the issue of these terrorists that have taken over a lot of major parts of the country? Beyond just issuing directive, what other measures do you think can really be a grasp measure in the fight against insurgency?
Thank you so much, ma'am. I really appreciate that question. Number one, you need to look at what the country has at its own as its own opportunity to deter crime. Number one, you look at the criminal justice. Now, the criminal justice system in Nigeria, it starts and ends, the buck starts and ends on the desk of the judiciary. Now, the professionalism in judicial cases will make the police sit up and present the right evidence, and the military that is going to also be concerned with bringing in prisoners of war from engagement will be sure. We have that confidence that the criminal justice system will work. Then the House of Reps and the Senate, they must execute, advocate, and present bills and rules to laws to the criminal justice system to use to execute criminals. So if murder is death sentence, murder is death sentence. You don't quote it, you don't paint it. If terrorism and banditry is death sentence, it's death sentence. You don't go on recess, you don't go on break. You take overtime and judge that case and sentence that man, that woman, those people to death. And whoever it is their duty, state governors or whoever, to sign the death sentences should sign the death sentences. Don't travel to anywhere, don't go anywhere, do it that week. Those that are supposed to roll out the criminals to the firing squad should do it immediately. The media should be there to cover it. When I was growing up as a young boy in Victory Primary School in Benin City, in Edopolo Grammar School, I used to go and watch where they kill criminals. And I told myself, I will not be a criminal, because I see the execution, I see what goes on there. So it should be brought back to Nigeria, especially. Number two, the NDLEA is doing a wonderful job. We should restrict all of those substances that make people to violate themselves, to restrict them, to look at restrictions. Then we should look at the financial system. We say we know who funds terrorism. So what's happening? The financial system should be able to track all of these money laundering systems, all of these criminal transfers, criminal control, criminal use of money to enhance, support, bribe, cajole, and intimidate people and allow crime to prevail. So we will also need to look at the prisons, maximum prisons or whatever. People don't stay in prisons in Nigeria. There were people that said they were allowed to stay in Airbnb when they were supposed to be serving a time. So we must make sure that those things are put in place. Then we must enhance the welfare of troops, the welfare of the police, and the welfare of all those frontline agency personnel, that it makes it juicy, that will make them not want to lose their job. Last but not the least, we should institute discipline. Discipline means the rule of law must prevail. Prisoners must follow the rule of law, the prison wardens, the police, the judiciary personnel. Everybody must follow the rule of law, or you face the strong arm of the law.
Amnesty for unrepentant, repentant bandits is been a conversation ongoing, and of course under the axis of the Operation Safe Corridor. That's been a conversation that's been going on for the longest time. Are you instituting for amnesty for them, because genuinely we have people who have been indoctrinated, young people who have been indoctrinated in the East into banditry and are willing to start afresh. Whereas the conversation has also been that some other people are bandits, and when you now, what's the word? You are covering up for them. People who have killed, like the new rule says, shoot on sight. Should there be amnesty for repentant bandits, or what should it be? What are your thoughts?
No. We are saying the same thing. I understand what you are saying. What you are saying now is, are we going to capitulate this into the national territorial integrity, to say in the east, in the south, in the west, in the north, in the northeast, in the southwest, in whatever classification you are within the territorial integrity of Nigeria, you are found to form a militia, you are already violating the rule. Okay, you are found to carry weapon, you are already violating the rule, whether you are in the north, in the south, or in the east. So we should not allow tribalism and religious bigotry or whatever to intimidate the law. The law stands. So once the law stands, if I have grievances, if I'm a herdsman and I have grievance with a farmer, I should believe in the law. If I don't believe in the law, then I should leave that space if I don't belong to that space. But if I'm a Nigerian, I should believe in the law. And that's why I said they should also stop all this de-radicalization, stop amnesty, stop plea bargain for criminal elements, stop all these, even this herding and cattle rearing, bring it into correct systems that are internationally enjoyable, so that the farmers too can enjoy their space in peace. But wherever you are in Nigeria, you wield weapons, you intimidate people's rights, then you are a bandit or a terrorist, and the law will stand against you.
Thank you so much to our guest, Royal Qdeve, security expert. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation of Shoot on Sight Anti-Terror Crackdown. It's a pleasure having you on the show this morning, and wishing you a beautiful weekend.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, this is where we wrap up the conversation. I think we've exhausted all our points this morning across the board.
Exactly. When you listen to his last words, we should stop amnesty. We should stop plea bargain. It's mean, in the other word, we should stop reintegrating those criminals into the society. And I listened to one of the lawmakers saying, 2 days ago, that whoever killed must be killed too. So we have enough of public there. In Borno State, that is the center of this terrorism, 720 fighters reintegrated. And the community are complaining. It's known. Last month, one of these so-called repentant terrorists killed 2 people.
Repentant terrorists. These are the conversations that needs to be had. But this is where we say our goodbyes. Thank you so much for joining us on the Friday episode of News Hub. My name is Tolu Ajibala. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. My name is Adewale Pusari. Good morning.